Hey guys, Frosty Knives here, back with another EU book review. And today we are going to be reviewing another book by Joe Scrieber. Now, last time we reviewed a book by Joe Scrieber, he gave us a prison thriller involving Darth Maul. And this time, what did Joe Scrieber give us for an offering in a new Star Wars book? This time we get zombies. Zombies in Star Wars. Zombie stormtroopers in Star Wars. Does it sound far-fetched? Absolutely. Was it a short, fast, fun, gory ride all the way to the bitter end? Absolutely. Here it is. Star Wars. Death Troopers, which has what I would argue to have the best, if not the best, probably the best cover of any expanded universe novel to date. I love this cover. I love the imagery. We got a stormtrooper helmet ripped off, probably still has a head in there, hanging by a chain. I mean, this is fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic. There are not many Star Wars covers that I say are fantastic. This is absolutely one of them. So what was this short romp through zombie world about? I say short because the book clocks in at 271 pages, so fairly fast read. And this was published in 2009. So the entire book takes place aboard an Imperial prison barge. An Imperial prison barge named the Purge. It's transporting prisoners to a penal planet. And along the way, it breaks down and it comes across a derelict Star Destroyer. Star Destroyer that just happens to be dead in space and floating through the void at the edges of the unknown regions. And unbeknownst to the crew of the Purge, the Star Destroyer is crawling with zombies and the virus that has created said zombies. And of course, like any good zombie novel or sci-fi horror, they investigate, they get infected, it runs through the Purge's population, murders about 99% of the cast, leaving only about 6 people left to try to escape this nightmare. And that's the entire story. 6 people, a mix of guards and prisoners who are trying to fight these hordes of zombies to get away from this catastrophe. Now, I say hordes because the common crew complement of an Imperial Star Destroyer is anywhere between 8,000 to 10,000 people, maybe even more. And so that translates into 8,000 to 10,000 zombies. And they're not your typical zombies. They are and they aren't. They're bloodthirsty. They transmit the virus through bite. They eat other people. But they're also capable of learning. They're capable of learning how to fire weaponry. They're capable of learning how to fly X-Wings and TIE fighters. So they're capable of this group think where they can learn, they can sort of evolve, they can become more deadly than just your shambling brain eaters. So it's a little different take on the zombie apocalypse, but it's still a fast and furious read. Joe Scrieber is a wonderful, wonderful author, and he gets down and dirty and gritty and bloody and gory with a lot of his writing, and this is no exception. It is gritty, it is horror, it is bloody, it is gory, it is everything that you would expect a zombie novel to be. There is a lot of just death and dismemberment and violence going on in this book. And it's a wonderful book. Except it does have one elephant in the room that I'd like to talk about that sort of does bring down the entire book. Now, if this elephant were not in this room, we're not in this particular hotel, this book would get a 5 from me. If this elephant was where it should be, in the proper places that elephant should be in, it would get a 5 from me. No question. But because the elephant decided it wanted to show up on this Star Destroyer, and it just felt out of place, I'm going to have to knock an entire star off. And so I rated it as a 4. And what is this elephant, you may ask? What is there that has just been enough to knock an entire star off the rating? Well, in addition to the prisoners and the guards and the zombies and everything else that happens to show up, who just happens to be on this prison barge during this outbreak but Han and Chewbacca? Yep, you heard it correctly. Han and Chewbacca on an Imperial prison barge in the middle of a zombie outbreak. So, Han and Chewie are in the book. Now, I don't know who to blame for this. Do we blame the author for putting Han and Chewie in the book? Or do we blame Del Rey, the publishers, for saying, hey, this is a Star Wars novel, and this is a novel that takes place right before A New Hope, so we want you to put in some original trilogy characters into your book, even if it doesn't make any sense, so that there is a connection and a bridge between this book and the original trilogy. Publishers were liked to do that back in the day. They liked to shoehorn original trilogy characters into their books, even if it didn't make any sense, to build this bridge. And this is a situation where it didn't make any sense. The role that Han and Chewie played could have been played by anybody. Literally anybody. Make 2 people up. It doesn't matter. It did not have to be them. It could have been anyone. It could have been droids. It could have been I don't care what. Make 2 characters up to fill the roles that they played. That would have made more sense. But we get Han and Chewie stuck in a prison barge. And why do we get Han and Chewie stuck on a prison barge? Because Han and Chewie just happened to get boarded by the Imperials. The Millennium Falcon just happened to get impounded by the Empire, and they just happened to get thrown in prison. Now, if you know anything about Han, right? You know there are 3 things that he holds the most dear. His ship, Chewie, and himself. This is a man who dumped an entire shipment of spice, who earned the ire of the world's most violent gangster in Jabba the Hutt, who had the biggest bounty on his head, just so he would not get captured by the Empire. This is a man who would rather blow up his own ship than have it fall into the enemy's hands. He would do anything to prevent himself and his ship by getting captured by the Empire, and yet we are made to believe that he just happened to get impounded and caught and captured. Nay. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It was put in there purely for nostalgia, purely for somebody that the reader might recognize to be like, hey, look at that. Han's in this book. I know Han. I don't know these other people, but I know him. And it didn't need to happen. Could have been done better or just the same with two other people that Joe Scrieber could have made up. He could have made up two better characters to carry the story along. And that is the one glaring flaw about this book. It's probably the only glaring flaw I'm going to give it, that they didn't need to be there. And it's just another in a sad attempt to shoehorn familiar characters into books to either connect with the reader or sell more books. Whatever Del Rey was thinking, they were thinking wrong. And then, of course, at the end of the book, he just sort of goes away because he has to go find his ship now, right? This is a book where all the stakes are really high, where you don't know who's going to live or die, where you don't know who's going to make it to the end. So including two legacy characters that could never be killed sort of takes away that suspense, right? You know at least two people are going to make it through this book now. If Han and Chewie weren't there, you wouldn't know who was going to... The tension would be better. The suspense would be better because you don't know who's going to die, who's going to turn, or who's going to make it. But you put two people in there who are unkillable, who have plot armor, who cannot be killed because they're in the movies, and that sort of diminishes the tenseness and the suspense and the feeling of who is going to make it out of this book alive. I would rather have not seen them at all in the book. And that's my only glaring flaw that this book has to offer. Other than that, is a fantastic read. Yeah, it's good. It's fast-paced, it's bloody, it's gory. It's got some great action sequences. The characters that Joe did create on his own were really good. That's some excellent character work. Decent story for what you would expect. Decent zombies in space story. It would have been perfect without Han and Chewie. But as it stands, it gets a 4 from me. Maybe even a little lower as I think about it, but I really, really like his writing. I really, really like his style. So we're going to go with a 4. So guys, that is my review of Joe Scrieber's Death Troopers. And that's the last Joe Scrieber book we're going to be reading in our expanded universe journey, because the only other book that he wrote was for the Old Republic. And maybe we'll read that at some point if we get to Old Republic books. But for New Republic and this time period, this will be the last Scrieber book we will be reading. The next Star Wars book we will be reading is called Shadow Games by Michael Reeves. And after that book, we will finally be getting into the original trilogy books and the original trilogy stories. So we're almost there, guys. We're almost to the Han, Luke, and Leia era. We got one more book, and then we will be there. So, guys, that's my review of Joe Scrieber's Star Wars Death Troopers with the fantastic cover. Have you read the book? What did you think about it? Give me your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your opinion about the elephant in the room? What is your thoughts on this book, or on the journey so far, or on Star Wars in general, or the expanded universe in general? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you like it, give it a thumbs up, give it a share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell those people that really love to shoehorn elephants into their books. For God's sakes, why? Stop doing it. And as always, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and I will see you in the next review.